Thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. That's
You're
my
welcome,
partner,
man.
Dark,
Nice to meet you.
and I'm just
You
pulling up
too.
my question. I'm pulling up my questions, and I'll be ready to go.
Okay,
Where are you
cool.
located today geographically?
I'm in Indiana, man.
Oh yeah, back home.
Yep, for the
All right.
moment.
So yeah, for a moment. Anyway, let's just jump in. So I don't know, Dark, you want to take the lead, or you want me to jump in?
Why don't you start, and then I'll ask some questions about the
Okay.
album.
I'm going to just jump right in then. So, 17 years after Brush Fires of the Mind, you've revisited the material with renewed intensity. How does your perspective on freedom and censorship evolve during that time, and how is that evolution reflected in this new mix?
I mean, I think the album is somehow more relevant today than even back then. Probably even a little more um, poignant in a way. I mean, things are certainly not getting any better in terms of our
Mhm.
personal freedom. So that's
It was
very
almost prophetic,
unfortunate.
right?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I mean, I learned from a lot of people. I mean, I had certain instincts that were definitely firing, and I even tried to do some kind of warning in the some of the ice earth stuff, and it was pretty clear the vaccine agenda and the pandemic was a. I mean, I'm not saying it was that there wasn't a problem, but just the way that everything was handled was like the worst thing you can do for the economy and individual rights. And every time we have a crisis, it it leads to less freedom and prosperity for our people, and obviously that kind of pisses me off.
Right. How do you feel Iced Earth fans are taking to the new stuff or the older new stuff or whatever the remix stuff?
Well, I don't really know, man. I'm not. I mean, I hear stuff from people. I'm not on social media, and
Or you're
I've
not at
never
all,
been.
right?
No, I got canceled off of the stuff personally, but I didn't use it personally. It was only to advertise the band and the stuff
Right.
that whatever projects I was working on. Um, and I haven't really been interested in chasing getting that reinstated. So at some point, I'm going to have to do that. But it's really not. It's only been a vehicle to promote things. Like I don't use it. I've always felt like it was extremely invasive, and um, I have no interest in telegraphing or talking to my family and friends in that way. I'm pretty old
Right.
school. I'd rather just get on a phone call and do that.
I'm
So
100% with you. I find it the nature of the beast. I mean, doing what we do, but yes, I 100% agree with you. I'd rather pick up the phone and talk to a human being.
yeah, and that's but as far as like going back, this has been the plan for quite a while, and it's always bothered me to have any kind of release with programmed drums on it. But back in the day when I did that, it was really about getting the messaging out, and
Mhm.
that's why I put it out for free initially, and then you could get a higher quality download. But I couldn't spend. I mean, I spent a lot of money on it, and then basically gave it away. So one of the biggest parts of production and expenses is doing drums, and then this was just a cheaper way. And even though it was a elaborate demo, it was still like a demo,
Right.
and that's always bothered me. So I always wanted, because I felt there was potential in the songs, and it definitely had an important message. So trying to get it out, um, the plan was always to get it out by the 250. And whether we have anything to celebrate or not, it's not feeling that way in general. But I still have hope that that real American spirit can rise above all this crap that's been going on for so long. And
Yeah.
we got to get back to an honest monetary system. I mean, dude, when I put the record out, we were pushing towards 12 trillion in debt, and those that have some kind of understanding were really concerned about that. And now we're at nearly 40, and it's completely unsustainable. And I've always been like, I would rather have this whole thing collapse and have to deal with the problem on my watch than rather my daughters or other people in my family, the young people that that I care about, but I
Right.
actually care about people in general. So this is not good. It's not good. It's a global situation. Obviously, I'm an American, and this is where I'm the most concerned with my homeland. And I think what we do here matters. So that's always been a big deal. But anyway, I just wanted to get this out and have it be uh, an actual record, and Mark just, he's just such an amazing drummer, and then Jim crushed it on this mix. I mean, the technology is a lot different. Back when we did the
Right.
original album, doing a recall in a mix was quite a process and really time consuming. And now using the SSL duality, which the first time I worked on that console was on the Plagues of
It's a
Babylon
great
record, but
console.
yeah, and you can just instantly recall a mix like in a couple minutes compared to doing an hour. And then whenever you finish a mix in the old days, you had to take mix notes, and there's always that potential of human error, getting every knob and fader correct.
Yeah.
And it was a time consuming process, let alone back in the tape days when you had to wait. There was all that rewind time and everything. So
Yep.
it's things have changed. In a way it's good, and in a way I still prefer analog for certain
I am
instruments.
with you 100%. I'm an old school engineer from New York, and yeah, I used
Oh,
to work on
nice.
the two. I used to work at the Hit Factory, and so
Oh,
two
cool.
inch, yeah, the 2 inch tape, and sometimes slaving the two machines together with that stupid
Yes.
links, and oh my God, nightmares. And
Yeah.
then editing
Yeah.
2 inch is kind of interesting too when you got the SMPTE code and all the other bullshit on it.
Yes, absolutely, man. I remember the first time Tom Morrison, but this goes way back in the 80s, and the first time he took a razor blade to one of our tapes, I'm like, oh, but obviously he knew what he was doing, but it's a freaky process. And
Yeah,
but so there's some amazing things about the digital world, but still, like, for me, when it comes to distorted signals, I still have a problem with the converters. I mean, it's
right.
better than it was. Our first full digital album was The Glorious Burden, and that album irritates me, and it's a great album. But when I listen, especially in the guitar sounds, that's where it bothers me. There's just
Right.
nothing like that old tape, that compression that happens recording to tape, and it's warm and punchy. And some years back, I had like 80 tapes and sent them all to an engineer in Jersey that actually specializes in taking
Did they have to
the old
rebake them?
catalog. Yes, yep, we baked them. He actually, and Jim had done that some years before all this took place, but I think this was in about 2018, 2019. I sent all those tapes out there. It was quite expensive, and he recorded them all, and we have them digital. And dude, the difference when you pull up the guitar sounds of those old albums when stuff was recorded to tape, it's like, damn. And that's what has always bothered me the most. It's the same thing when you're dealing with a singer that's really raspy. You know, I would rather, in a perfect world, I would love to record the rhythm guitars, the main part of the song, the meat of it, and the singer on analog tape, and do everything else
For
digitally. I
that
think that would be a
compression.
kick-ass combination. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the conversion, because what I noticed, I think it was Plagues of Babylon, we ran into some square wave distortion on the converters, um, on Stu's vocal, that it's something that's just, it makes for a harsh tone that you don't get in analog. It's not there. So,
Yep.
there's kind of, and it doesn't seem to be a problem when you're doing bass or drums or anything that's really clean. Clean guitars, not an issue. When you put distortion in the mix, you know, there's the potential for square wave distortion in those converters, and that's annoying. But
All right, I've got one more and I'll let Dark jump in. So with the addition of Mark Prater and Jim, I guess he's always been Iced Earth's guy. But how did it change what the original was? Like, how did you feel and what kind of emotion was it? Because it's significantly different, right?
yeah, well, for one thing, just acoustic drums, you can't beat it. I mean, I think the program that we used back in the day was BFD, if I remember right, and it was pretty impressive for drum programming at that time period.
Hmm.
But it's come much further now, so you can get some pretty good sounds on doing program drums and make some very elaborate demos. But the trick is always in the cymbal work. That's where you got to spend. You can, even now, I think, with the technology where it is, if you wanted to spend the time going through and playing around with the dynamics of every single ride cymbal hit, so that you're articulating like a human being would, because it's never going to be perfectly consistent. Those kind of things, you could put the time and probably fool a lot of people. I mean, this is, it's a thing, but I don't want to do that. There's just something about having a live drummer that makes a gigantic difference. I mean, it's the foundation of everything. You got to have great drums if you're going to have a great album. It's like building. If you build a home, you got to have a killer foundation, or your home's going to be a piece of shit. And that's just the way it is.
When you listen to them both back to back, then it's like night and day, right? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And also, to be fair, like the mixing back in the day, because of the costs, and when you've always got to consider a budget. That's part of production. Like your job as a producer is to manage the budget. You got to manage the time and make sure that you don't go over that, or if you do, within a reasonable amount, because you can get caught in the weeds. And back in the day, even though there were substantial budgets on things, you still need to finish it, because you can get in the weeds in a mix situation where every detail is like, you start chasing it and it can get very, very expensive. So you have to manage that stuff. And that was a more complicated mix with the duality, which is what Jim is using now. You can recall stuff really fast.
Yeah.
And one of them also, Ruben played almost all the bass on Sons of Liberty, and he's done some work with Demons and Wizards and on the Purgatory record. And he's a fantastic bass player, but it was always a challenge to get that bass guitar to really speak against my wall of rhythm guitars, or with it, to be able to hear it and make it present. And Jim nailed it this time. I mean, where Ruben, who plays with his fingers, it's not muddying up the mix. That's a big deal, because with that wall of rhythm guitars, to get the bass to speak in that mix so that it comes out, but that there's enough separation, he nailed it. And he told me, he said, when he started working, he said, "Jon, I think I finally figured out how to get Ruben to sit in this mix." And that's also a big deal. So you combine that with the acoustic drums and getting the bass guitar actually present, so it's not muddy in there. Normally in the past, like with the big metal stuff, especially the fast parts, the bass guitar has almost always been played with a pick, whether I'm playing it or somebody else. Because the finger thing, it's one thing if you're Steve Harris and you're Iron Maiden and the rhythm guitars aren't so present, and you're more like the dueling, the lead guitar stuff that they do, which is, it's the signature thing of the band. Steve's got that shit. He's in the pocket, but like, and it's the most present thing there. But it's like, Iced Earth is a different beast, or Demons and Wizards, or anything I do, because the rhythm guitar is the dominant thing in the arrangement. And so you got it, it's a trick, but I think with this record, that was one of the things that made it a little bit muddy back in the day. It wasn't just the programmed drums and the kind of lack of human dynamic, but also the bass just wasn't as present, because we just didn't get it. Jim figured it out, how to get it to speak and to add that bottom end and not get in the way of the rhythm guitar. So I think it sounds really cool for what it is, man. It is what it is. Like, I have no expectations on it. It's just always something that I wanted to do, and to try to elevate it to kind of the best that it could be at this period of time. I mean, that was the Brushfires album was the first time I really sang. I mean, yeah, I did like a lot of shit on Burnt Offerings and on the Storm Rider album, and there's a lot of growling and stuff, but not really singing. And when I had this sort of awakening moment, I felt compelled, like I had to do that. And I went to my studio and just started doing it, and the album happened very quickly, or the writing of the album did. And well, it all did, really, even the production and everything. So, but it's the kind of thing, the more you do, it would have gotten better for sure. It's like almost starting new when it comes to at least me doing vocal. The other stuff, was like, I'm an expert in that, frankly. You know what I mean? So I know what I'm doing when it comes to that. Sure. But like the other part of it, and I guarantee the next time I get behind a mic and anything new, it's going to be a whole different ball game because I've gained a whole lot of understanding and wisdom through the years. Yeah.
Sorry, what do you got?
Yeah. So on that note of vocals, I'll just jump right in with this question. There's a song on the compilation. It was probably released in 2011. I think it's pronounced Moulin Lave, like "Come and Take It."
Yep.
That's
Yep.
you singing. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. When I first heard that, like a couple days ago, I immediately thought it was a Barlow guest spot. Like, were you intentionally going for that style, or is it just because you write like that?
No, it had nothing to do with Barlow. It had everything to do with Leonidas from the movie 300.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those vocals. Actually, when I went to mix that record, I re-sang in Morrisound, and which one I'm trying to remember. I think Full Spectrum Dominance. And I was considering redoing Moulin Lave because to me it sounds like an angry Molly Hatchet. Like I'm not really a big fan, especially in the verses. I think the pre-chorus and the chorus is pretty cool, but it does sort of create a vibe. But I thought it was a little corny. But then I tried to do it again, and I couldn't. I just couldn't get the voice out with. And also, it's pretty brutal on your voice to sing that way. It's the guy in Molly Hatchet. He can sing that way all the time, but there's just a little bit more anger on what I did. And no, I was channeling Leonidas for sure in that because that's totally inspired by the movie 300. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I wasn't sure if that was like in theme with the rest of the album.
Well, it is in just in an attitude ways, like the whole idea of the people that want to grab our firearms rights and stuff like that. It's definitely there's a lot of people that are 2A people that are, the come and take it attitude it goes back to the Spartan situation.
Have you ever been to the Alamo? Because like the whole flag there is "Come and Get It," the cannon, I think.
Yeah, and it goes back to that exactly. Yeah, I've been there.
Yep. I wasn't sure if like when I first heard it, I assumed it was about that, and then you said Sparta, and I'm like, oh, that. Anyway.
Yeah, it's all the same sentiment, man. I mean, human beings have a God-given right to defend themselves. Period. End of story. That's not negotiable. It just isn't. Otherwise, you're a total slave. If you can't do that, you're a slave. So it's a bigger issue.
Anyway, so I'd like to zero in on one of the songs that, like, I probably heard it back in the day. And we could talk about like how Ice Earth fans received Sons of Liberty in a bit, but Mind Control, I think it was. You talk about people being addicted to TV. And
yeah.
Okay, so Bruce used the word prophetic earlier. That's before this thing was in everybody's hands for like, 27 hours a day. Do you ever look back on that one and say, oh shit, or whatever you would say?
I mean, it's pretty easy to see it coming, and it's, before the cell phone, that's another level of this. But television itself, I mean, they don't call it programming by accident. When you're with the flicker rate of a television, it puts you in a suggestive state. So when they're bombarding you with propaganda, it sort of suspends your ability to do critical thinking. People don't realize it, but because they think they're being entertained. But there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on subliminally in a lot of these programs, and it's a way to mold a specific narrative, whatever that may be. And but then the cell phone, now it's taken it to a whole nother level.
And I mean, in terms of, we have to ask, like, is there new music coming from the Sons of Liberty or Iced Earth Demons and Wizards front? And then as a follow-up, go ahead.
There will be new music. So yeah, there's no doubt, but it's going to happen on my timeline because as much as I hear, and I know the fans, especially the Iced Earth fans, want new music, I'm not interested in new music. I want great music, and anything else outside of being truly inspired is not interesting to me. Going out and putting the band back together just for the purposes of trying to feel relevant or to make money, That's the easy way. That's a checkers move. I'm not interested in it. It has no like there. It's got to be because I really love it, not because the machine relies on it. And I was in that. I mean, I think we did great records. I'm proud of my career. But there, when you're in that sort of the hamster wheel of new album tours, that cycle that goes on constantly, you're you get off of the original point. It becomes a business. It becomes this thing where you sometimes have to go through the motions even if you don't feel like it, because there's commitments, and it really, and things changed a lot in the music business. I mean, I was in it for decades. I saw a lot of things change, and it got to be to where the albums were like a side note for the band to go out and tour and sell merch, and that's not, I just refuse to do that. I'm not going to be chasing Federal Reserve notes over like my integrity as an artist, and that's where it's at. That's just where I'm at. It's a no-go zone until the inspiration is there. Things are starting to happen, so I can feel that, but it may take a while. But I'm not playing checkers with this shit. Dude, I get it. I understand how this works, and anything that I do going forward, regardless of what project it is or what band it is, it's got to be because there is a real true inspiration and enjoyment from doing it, not to chase money, because then you're off the point. And I know, for me, I've always been one that I don't really care what people think about my art. My preference is that they would like it. That's the preference. But if you start worrying about what other people think, you've already lost the plot. That's not what art is, man. It is a very personal, very spiritual thing. And all this crap with AI is like, there is zero chance that will ever be used in Iced Earth or anything that I'm involved with. It's disgusting. It's a complete, you're talking about a gift given by God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that art is a real thing, whatever it is, whether it's poetry, whether it's actual art, painting, drawing, music, whatever. And just because the Borg hive mind has the technology to be able to create this kind of stuff, like, I don't want any part of that, man. I'm not going to get sucked into that crap. It's completely anti-human as far as I'm concerned. So that's off the table. And anyway, I've got plans, and I'm moving towards putting those things in process, but I'm not going to say really any more than that. Just stay tuned. It's going to take a while. It will be worth it. Trust me, because it's going to be the best stuff that I've ever written has come through the heaviest things that I've ever experienced. And obviously the last 5 years have been intense, but that's going to lead to something really special. But I'm going to trust my gut, my instincts, let my spirit guide me, and just go. And then we'll see when that happens. But when it happens, it's going to be epic.
That's great. I've got one more for you, and it's a big one, but we can try and condense it if you want. You've described Sons of Liberty as a wake-up call, not just a musical project. Do you see the artist's role as a truth teller who challenges systems, or more as a catalyst for individual awakening and self-education?
I do. I think artists play a pretty important role. Now, as to say, like, is it important that people know my political opinions? No. But it's only political in the way that it affects the body politic, which is the people. It has not ever been anything that's getting behind a specific group. That's the misunderstanding. And that's one of the things that right out of the gates with Sons of Liberty, it was marginalized and called right-wing extremism. Well, I happen to sing against fascism all over the album. So people need to listen to it for what it is. I'm against every form of state-mandated collectivism. I believe in freedom. I believe in the founding principles of the country. As imperfect as we were or are, that even back then, it was an unbelievable step in the growth of humanity, the system that these guys came up with, and they get demonized constantly. And yes, they weren't perfect, but the world is not perfect, and perfection isn't the standard. We can't make that the standard, because it's going to be impossible to meet. We can only do the best that we can do, and it's my belief that we will have more peace and more prosperity the freer that people are. The more that we mandate and use force to try to get people to go along with our particular moral view, it's going to be bad for people. And that's the collectivist mindset. Whether you call that fascism or socialism or communism or this fake version of capitalism that we're in right now, because it's not a free market, that's a problem, and we have to. I'm working with a group of people that we want to be able to try to reconfigure, at least plant those seeds to reconfigure their way of thinking about what freedom is, because we get told all the time we're the freest country in the world. Oh, really? Tell me exactly how that is so. So I mean, my views have changed because I've gone. It's been a journey. And I think you have to be willing to learn through the process and don't get caught up in groupthink, man. Groupthink is like, it's a joke. It's almost like I think it's almost like the people, especially in the West, the way the West is definitely in decline, they're in a way almost under some form of full on Stockholm syndrome. It's a weird situation, but it's because we've just gotten away slowly, drip by drip, through all these years, gotten away from the principles that freedom and sovereignty, individual sovereignty, let alone like your national. If you just break it down into a situation where if you give up your local power, local being the most local is your body, and you give that up. What's similar if you look at government, how much if you give away your state sovereignty and then you give away your national sovereignty, who do you go to for the redress of grievances? It's like it's a disaster if you think it through. And so this is just sort of common sense stuff, I think, that we've really lost sight of, and we got to connect with that, and we got to stop fighting. I mean, the enemies are dividing us, man. And that's one of the really bad things about social media that is pretty evident. If you're clicking on something or you're scrolling and you even pause, there's like that's being tracked, and it's building a profile for you. And then it's building your confirmation bias. Therefore, you're becoming easier to target and push these beliefs that may or may not be true on whatever side of the political aisle, or religion versus religion, or whatever. It's all divide and conquer. And we got to get out of that. We have to say, no, we're not going to comply with that. We're going to speak to each other like human beings. We're going to talk this out. We're going to talk about reasonable people can disagree about things and still move towards what's best for the common good. I mean, I really believe that. But these things like social media are making, if people aren't aware of it, it's almost like they're making people less reasonable.
Jon, we are running out of time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. It's great seeing you, and you look great, by the way.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm trying to stay fit and stay focused. Got some good stuff coming, man.
When's the album about the social media algorithms coming?
What's that now?
You're gonna write an album about social media algorithms and how they're warping the people? That's not even controversial nowadays.
No, I probably not. No, I don't know. I haven't started writing yet. So there's stuff brewing. I can feel it. I've been doing this a long time, and it's on the verge of something happening, what it's going to look like. And it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters except that the spirit of the songs are there. That's the first step. And everything else just follows suit. That's the easy shit. Everything after the tough stuff is it's the knowing that it's there. As weird as that sounds.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Great seeing you. Thank you for the great music all these years. Look forward to more stuff.
You're welcome, man. Thank you guys. And
be well. I hope that wasn't too bad.
No, it was great. No problem at all.
Okay, good. Nice. Awesome. Have a great night, my friend. Cheers.
All right. You too, man.
Happy Easter.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Happy Easter, man. Take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Think Verizon is expensive? Think again. Anyone can bring their AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. So bring us your bill. Walk in, run in, pogo stick in, teleport if you can. Ride on the back of a rollerblading yak or fly in on the wings of a majestic falcon. Any way you can, bring your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal on the best network. Based on RootMetrics best overall mobile network performance, U.S. second half 2025, all rights reserved. Must provide very recent postpaid consumer mobile bill in the name of the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply.